All men who have turned out worth anything have had the chief hand in their own education. Oh, what a tangled web we weave, when first we practice to deceive. Love rules the court, the camp, the grove, and men below, and the saints above, for love is heaven, and heaven is love. For he that does good, having the unlimited power to do evil, deserves praise not only for the good which he performs, but for the evil which he forbears. The misery of keeping a dog is his dying sassoon. But, to be sure, if he lived for 50 years and then died, what would become of me? Fight on, brave knights. Man dies, but glory lives. Fight on, death is better than defeat. Fight on, brave knights, for bright eyes behold your deeds. I have heard men talk about the blessings of freedom, he said to himself, but I wish any wise man would teach me what use to make of it now that I have it. I envy thee not thy faith, which is ever in thy mouth but never in thy heart nor in thy practice. A lawyer without history or literature is a mechanic, a mere working mason. If he possesses some knowledge of these, he may venture to call himself an architect. We shall never learn to feel and respect our real calling and destiny, unless we have taught ourselves to consider everything as moonshine, compared with the education of the heart. It was woman that taught me cruelty, and on woman therefore I have exercised it. Breathes there the man with soul so dead, who never to himself hath said, this is my own, my native land. Heap on more wood. The wind is chill, but let it whistle as it will, we'll keep our Christmas merry still. Blessed be his name, who hath appointed the quiet night to follow the busy day, and the calm sleep to refresh the wearied limbs and to compose the troubled spirit. Wounds sustained for the sake of conscience carry their own balsam with the blow. Success or failure in business is caused more by the mental attitude even than by mental capacities. I will tear this folly from my heart, though every fiber bleed as I rend it away. And please return it. You may think this a strange request, but I find that although my friends are poor arithmeticians, they are nearly all of them good bookkeepers. One or two of these scoundrel statesmen should be shot once a year, just to keep the others on their good behavior. When true friends meet in adverse hour, 'tis like a sunbeam through a shower. A watery way an instant seen, the darkly closing clouds between. In the wide pile, by others heeded not, hers was one sacred solitary spot, whose gloomy aisles and bending shelves contained for moral hunger food, and cures for moral pain. The wretch, concentred all in self, living, shall forfeit fair renown, and, doubly dying, shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. Sir Walter Scott, 1771–1832. No word of commiseration can make a burden feel one feather's weight lighter to the slave who must carry it. He that climbs the tall tree has one right to the fruit, He that leaps the wide gulf should prevail in his suit. 1 hour of life, crowded to the full with glorious action, and filled with noble risks, is worth whole years of those mean observances of paltry decorum. How nearly can what we most despise and hate approach in outward manner to that which we most venerate? Certainly, quoth Athelstane, women are the least to be trusted of all animals, monks and abbots excepted. There is no better antidote against entertaining too high an opinion of others than having an excellent one of ourselves at the very same time. I forgive you, Sir Knight, said Rowena, as a Christian. That means, said Wamba, that she does not forgive him at all. Rebecca, she who could prefer death to dishonor must have a proud and powerful soul. Now, it is well known that a man may with more impunity be guilty of an actual breach either of real good breeding or of good morals, than appear ignorant of the most minute point of fashionable etiquette. And my father, oh, my father, evil is it with his daughter, when his gray hairs are not remembered because of the golden locks of youth. The lovers of the chase say that the hare feels more agony during the pursuit of the greyhounds than when she is struggling in their fangs. He that does good, having the unlimited power to do evil, deserves praise not only for the good which he performs, but for the evil which he forbears. Thy resolution may fluctuate on the wild and changeful billows of human opinion, but mine is anchored on the rock of ages. He that is without name, without friend, without coin, without country, is still at least a man, and he that has all these is no more. Thou and I are but the blind instruments of some irresistible fatality, that hurries us along, like ships driving before the storm, which are dashed against each other, and so perish. Teach you children poetry, it opens the mind, lends grace to wisdom and makes the heroic virtues hereditary. Of all the train, none escaped except Wamba, who showed upon the occasion much more courage than those who pretended to greater sense. Female forms of exquisite grace and beauty began to mingle in his mental adventures, nor was he long without looking abroad to compare the creatures of his own imagination with the females of actual life. I pretend not to be a champion of that same naked virtue called truth, to the very outrance. I can consent that her charms be hidden with a veil, were it but for decency's sake. That she felt in her mind the consciousness that she was entitled to hold a higher rank from her merit, than the arbitrary despotism of religious prejudice permitted her to aspire to. Nothing perhaps increases by indulgence more than a desultory habit of reading, especially under such opportunities of gratifying it. Craigengelt, you're either an honest fellow in right good earnest, and I scarce know how to believe that, or you are cleverer than I took you for, and I scarce know how to believe that either. The seat of the Celtic muse is in the midst of the secret and solitary hill, and her voice in the murmur of the mountain stream. We resign to civil society our natural rights of self-defense only on condition that the ordinances of law should protect us. The gaudy coloring with which she veiled her unhappiness afforded as little real comfort as the gay uniform of the soldier when it is drawn over his mortal wound. Honor is a homicide and a bloodspiller that gangs about making frays in the street, but credit is a decent honest man that sits at hame and makes the pat play. The wretch, concentred all in self, living, shall forfeit fair renown, and, doubly dying, shall go down to the vile dust, from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. Such a visage, joined to the brawny form of the holy man, spoke rather of sirloins and haunches than of peas and pulse. There are few more melancholy sensations than those with which we regard scenes of past pleasure when altered and deserted. Godfrey Bertram of Ellangowan succeeded to a long pedigree and a short rent roll, like many lairds of that period. My mind to me a kingdom is. I am rightful monarch, and, God to aid, I will not be dethroned by any rebellious passion that may rear its standard against me.